Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our second session of the day. We are going to be listening to a panel talk about winning customers in a world of bots and AI and automation. Joining us today, we've got Sylvia Kulesha, who is the Senior Executive Director of Digital Engagement and Cross-Channel Sales at Standard Chartered Bank. She's got over 14 years of experience in banking sector and over 13 years on the managerial positions responsible for customer engagement and sales results of digital channels and human-assisted channels. She's accountable for re-engineering and orchestrating omni-channel digital retail services and sale processes with proven leadership and an in-depth knowledge of customer service and sales. Joining her is Chris Lippman. He is the Chief Customer Officer at StarHub. Chris leads StarHub's end-to-end customer experience, so he is responsible for the company's transformation to deliver personalized and proactive customer experience from its contact centers, as well as digital platforms. Prior to joining StarHub, Chris was Vice President for Customer Experience, Insights and Operations of Southeast Asia at Hook Digital. Joining him, we have Walter de Oude, founder and Group Chief Executive Officer of Sing Life. As the founder and CEO of Singapore Life, my apologies, Walter de Oude started the life insurance company from scratch and has been active in the financial services sector since moving to Singapore in 2000. Prior to establishing Singapore Life in 2014, Walter was CEO at HSBC Insurance Singapore. And last but certainly not least, and one many of you are probably familiar with as well, we've got Kavan Sito, Regional Head of Customer Operations and Trust and Safety from Shopee. As the regional lead for customer operations and trust, Kavan is responsible for overseeing customer operations of Shopee across the region and ensuring that Shopee users enjoy a seamless and secure shopping experience. Welcome to the stage, everyone.
Hi, Felicia, great to be here.
Good morning. Now, I know that, of course, we've got a wide range of individuals from a number of different industries. So I'd love to kind of get a bit of a background on where you are at in your digitalization journey. Just a quick, brief one-liner before we get into the meat of this session today. Walter, would you like to start?
Sure, it's easy for us. We're a digitally built life insurance company. It's our entire existence. So everything that we started to do was digital. But the future is more than just digital, and it's moving from just, well, in our world, from a digital start to a digitally inspired but face-to-face led financial services company.
All right, and Sylvia, you're joining us from Standard Chartered Bank.
Yes. Hi. For banks, we all as a bank started digital transformation many years ago. The question is, are we being able to speed up enough during last years? Because, customers' expectations are changing, and their demand of doing it faster, better, quicker, with better design, with better experience is increasing enormously increased enormously during last year. So for Standard, this is like without our DNA, right? We have to transform our channels. We are doing this digital transformation, and because we are operating or more than 30 markets, of course, the differences on the markets are visibly seen. Like in Hong Kong, for sure, you saw our latest announcements or fully digital virtual bank MOX. In Africa, we have exactly the same model for fully digital banks. In traditional banking, we are working on shifting to digital. So yes, it's part of our DNA, and we are digitalizing ourselves.
All right. And Chris, what about yourself? StarHub, I know, is with a telecommunications company, is probably experiencing quite a lot of change, particularly now.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, I wish we had the same concerns that Walter has. Life would be a lot easier for us if we'd been built from scratch as a digital organization. unfortunately, telco is much older than that. I mean, which is it's problematic given that all the competitors in the market are in fact entering on that basis. They are entering on a fully digital basis. For us, we probably started our digital transformation quite late. It started headlong a couple of years back when there was a shift in senior management. We are headlong down the digital path now in terms of our customer behaviour to accept a digital way of operating and a digital way of servicing. Yeah, and so essentially that's where we're at. And obviously I can get further into it as we progress.
All right. And Kavan, joining us from Shopee, of course, also a digital platform as well. Love to hear about where you are in your journey. I know that you've embarked on AI as well, so would be great to hear just a touch on that.
Yes, similar to Walter, the e-commerce industry is a digital industry. I mean, the old version of it is traditional retail. The digital version of it is e-commerce, which Shopee is doing. There are also non-digital elements of it that complete the e-commerce experience. For example, logistics. I mean, that still is a physical action that still needs to be done. But a lot of the other things, for example, customer service, payments, a lot of these things are done digitally right now, and we began that from day one. I think what we've seen for sure in the past 6 months has been an acceleration of the trends that we've been seeing for the past couple of years. And in the past couple of years, there was a growing adoption of e-commerce across the region. But certainly in the past 6 months, there's been a very quick acceleration of this change in behavior. I think initially, when the pandemic started, there were a lot of quick responses in terms of like groceries that people were buying, home and living, like they needed furniture to do all the home office environments. And then we started to see that change over time, and it's still some of this behavior is still persisting as well.
All right. Yeah. I mean, this leads me great into my next question is all of you are working in an industry that is really dealing with those frontline customers, right? And particularly during the past 6 months, things have changed across the region. I'd love to hear just a little bit on how that has impacted your digitalization strategies. Kavan, you mentioned it having expedited a lot of certain elements or key services that you guys had, in order to be able to meet the demands and the needs of this changing customer. Walter, I imagine in the, insurance industry, this probably had also increased probably in terms of queries. How were you able to handle, let's say, the influx of customer contacts?
Yeah, I think from a Singlife perspective, as we said, we've been building out digital type of ecosystems, which basically means that your ability to engage with customers is almost infinite because all of the interactions are digital. Most things can be sorted out without any human intervention, so you can scale things pretty quickly. In fact, we scaled very, very well over the COVID-19 period. We put out a product which has been incredibly well received called the Singlife account. And basically what that did was we identified a need where customers are just not getting a decent return on their bank accounts at the moment. And so looking for insurance type of alternatives to that. So we constructed a Singlife account, which basically gives you a great interest rate on your account, and you can take your money out any time without any penalties. So it kind of operates in the same way as a day-to-day transaction account. We became a Visa issuer, and so you could tap your Visa card to extract your savings from your savings account or your Singlife account, and did some transaction stuff so that you could get FX at wholesale when you used it overseas. But bringing that product to market, as we did, we went pretty hard on bringing it to market, and it ramped up incredibly fast over the period to the tune of we've just closed just over $500 million new cash coming through that. And the platform's just done phenomenally well. It's just one of those great examples of where digitization allows you to scale in a way which you've never really been able to do previously.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that digitization and scale is always, particularly a pain point for many industries, having that agility and that scalability, available to them. Sylvia, given that, Standard Chartered Bank has, of course, from the beginning invested in digital transformation, given it is such a large organization, I imagine it would have been quite a challenge to have that scalability to hand during the Corona time.
Frankly speaking, we haven't had any challenge here, as from the beginning we've been organized in an agile way of working. So if we are thinking about pure capabilities, technical delivery, we've been organized in an agile way, which means that we have a combination of business people, ITO people, customer experience designer people working together to bring value to the customers. So it's not only pure technical implementation when it can be, of course, it can be a challenge if you are not doing this in an agile way, and if you would implement it one country by country, right? But if you are doing this holistically in an agile way of working, which means we all are working together, means group, countries, designers, and tech people, and you are rolling across the markets at the same time, the same capabilities, technically the same capabilities, but of course tailored for market needs. I can't see any challenges. So it's more like, how are you being organized? Are you introducing things in a waterfall way, or are you using agile methodology? How your people are working together? So it's more like a combination of different factors, and it's more like a business strategy. So if you have a proper business strategy in place, when I'm saying business strategy, to run the business means from strategy to implementation to small tweaks even here and there, then it's pretty much easy to implement things, and you can do it really fast.
Yeah, I mean, I think also nowadays, it's all about lean and agile. So I feel like a lot of business models have been either being reevaluated or already we're embarking on that journey. Chris, during the panel, someone mentioned that the expectations of customers have changed and the demands have changed as well. I have spoken to quite a number of people in the telecommunications industry, and they talked about the demand during this time, particularly for seamless customer journeys, especially on their digital channels, has been increased. I wonder how, given working from home, and I don't know if you're still working from home, we are here in our office here in Singapore. So, I'd love to hear how you were able to kind of tackle that demand, particularly given that it was unexpected.
I think it's look, there's two answers to that question. So one is the operational side, the call center side of service, the installation side of service, the physical operations, and the other one is the sales side, stores, etc., and moving that to. So I'll start with the call center. So we were hit. We actually have call centers spread across 3 countries. We have some here in Singapore. We have a big chunk in Malaysia. And we also have some back office work and some frontline work at boys based in the Philippines. And so we kind of got hit with a triple whammy. Philippines government literally went into lockdown from one day to the next with no notice at all. It just said from tomorrow nobody's allowed to go to the office. So you can imagine the tailspin that sent us into. In Malaysia, we got warning signs at least. They started to put up roadblocks and started to stop people. It started to do checks and threatening to basically do it. And so we had more time to prepare. And to be honest, Singapore was easiest because of the infrastructure here. It was easy. So we rapidly moved to a work from home model in all 3 of those markets. And we did it in the space of Malaysia. We moved 400 people from a centralized call center to work from home, despite the infrastructure challenges around the quality of the internet. And we did this successfully. We maintained our NPS levels in the call center, centralized call center, we maintained them from home, and we were expecting a dip. Now, if you look at the flip side of that, if you look at our competitor, which shall remain our biggest competitor, which shall remain nameless, they didn't do this. They basically, when the order came out of the Philippines, they just shut down. They didn't work from home. And as a result, those of you who follow the CSISG results, which is the only independent customer service surveys that are done by SMU here in Singapore, we beat Singtel on the basis of customer service for the first time since 2008, 2009. They fell off a cliff. I mean, you simply can't stop providing service. You cannot. I mean, if a bomb hits, you need to find an alternative. And they didn't take that path, and we did. So I think customers have been very accepting of that. To be honest, it was a seamless transition for us to work from home. From a sales perspective, during the full-on lockdowns here in Singapore, we did find that our sales absolutely spike on digital, and we had to accommodate that with deliveries, etc. But we found since restrictions have been softened, people have switched straight back to bricks and mortar. Right, our sales have shifted off digital and straight back to bricks and mortar, exactly the same as pre-COVID. Now that they can actually do it. Now, I think a lot of this is the touchy-feely nature of buying a mobile phone. People really want to touch it, play with it, and etc. You know, you probably don't want to make a 2-year investment or $1,000 or $1,500 investment without actually touching and feeling that device. But that's what we've seen as a result of COVID.
All right. Do you imagine that this is something that's, going to eventually evolve? I mean, we're going into a new generation, with, for example, Sing Life being 100% digital, Shopee, of course, as well as digital. I would imagine that that need for brick and mortar, that need to feel those phones is going to eventually change,
Look, I completely agree with that statement. I think this is no disclosure of our strategy, right? But I would think where we will move, stores will simply become a place to touch and feel, and then if you want to transact, you will go and do it online. And you can do it online. I would imagine you will do it online in the store. I'm sure you can come home once you make up your mind and do that. From a sales perspective, I think from a service perspective, culturally here in Singapore, I often joke that every Singaporean knows my customer service number 1633. I just stop so everybody knows it, and so everyone's first reaction is pick up the phone and call 1633. So we found, when we were developing digital properties, if they had a question about the web, they would not seek to answer it on the web. They would pick up the phone and call because everybody knows that number, and that's the knee-jerk reaction. And I think we've come a long way in the last 2 years to address that. Our call volume from 2 years ago is down 60%, and it was in this direction pre-COVID. So it's not a COVID thing. And as we develop more digital and customers get more accustomed to that, and the chatbots, etc., that we, I think it will reduce even.
All right, thank you. Kavan, I'm quite interested in hearing as well, from a e-commerce perspective. I think, one of the things that from what I hear as well is that the expectations of getting their deliveries was still there. They felt that a lot of the customers felt that this shouldn't have been disrupted despite COVID. Is that accurate? And how were you able to manage that delicate balance of course, dealing with regulations while still meeting the demands of the customers that we had? Since e-commerce, even though everything does happen online, like you said, the logistics side of it is still very much hands-on process.
Yes, I think in terms of growth, like even before COVID, I think we're growing tremendously. And I think COVID itself has accelerated our order growth. And the two elements that affects on the operational level, right? One is the customer service side. we had much more calls, and we've had to rely on a lot more self-service strategies. A lot of our consumers like the chat channel. So we offer all the channels: call, email, chat, forms, the full suite, social media. And everyone has their preference, but chat itself is quite a growing and preferred channel. It could be because of the other habits they picked up over time, but that's what we see. And with that, strategies like chatbots and self-service articles actually have a good base to play to help our users get the answers they want. So we have to accelerate our strategies for that. And for Singaporeans in particular, I think they are very demanding. If I compare the Singaporean consumer with, let's say, my Indonesian consumers, I could have exactly the same bot kind of doing the same thing, but the expectations are very different, and they show their displeasure in many different ways. As compared to let's say the consumers in Indonesia. So we've had to grapple with that. We realized that you couldn't just use one strategy that would make everyone happy. We have to adapt to the local market's preference. Well, and to your question, Felicia, on the logistics element, it's tricky. I mean, with let's say with a chatbot, we could something you can kind of accelerate if you put a lot more people at it. You put a lot more analysts at it. You put more developers at it. A few more product managers. You could accelerate that. Logistics is a little bit harder because you're talking about real infrastructure you need to put in place. You need people to actually deliver those things, and it's not as easy to accelerate that infrastructure in a short time. Singapore itself, logistics infrastructure is probably pretty decent, but if you look at the logistics outlay in the other markets within Southeast Asia, it is significantly more challenging, and that takes time to build. And I'm not just talking about drivers and motorbikes. There's also roads and highways and ships and ports that actually do have strong influence on how how quick we can deliver an item to the user. Ideally we want it fast, but it is to some extent hampered by the available partners and levers that we have.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a true statement that not one size fits all. You know, and I think it's a challenge that many businesses face, is to be able to understand who it is that they're catering to. You know, I'd actually be curious to hear how it is that you are identifying these different nuances within, let's say, even just the Singaporean market, because there are different ways to which to communicate. You know, for example, Gen Zs, it's all about social media. With the older generation, it's all about, you know, the brick and mortar that, you know, Chris, you were discussing earlier. It is very difficult to find that one size fits all. Now, we are talking about winning customers in the world of, you know, chatbots, AI, and automation. I'd love to hear a little bit more how you are being able to cater to those older generations, because they are taking over predominantly a lot of market share as well. Walter, given that insurance is a key player for all walks of life, I'd love to hear your take on this.
Yeah, we found, you know, we get a very nice balance of younger and older. In fact, it's almost like a bell curve, because you get a lot of the digitally, you know, super savvy kind of, yeah, and almost the guys wanting to try new things, which tend to be a bit younger. But then we also get this big bump of older people who are probably a little bit more risk averse, who are looking for, you know, good, solid, stable returns on their money, and so you kind of get this bell. And so what we found really in this is that on onboarding, or trying to get the, you know, the initial starting phase connected, we ended up having a lot of probably sometimes it's younger people helping their parents, or even our customer service having to help where need be. But once the relationship is intact and started, what we found from a customer experience, you know, we don't have a 1633 number, and yes, I do remember that, Chris, because I have dialed it a couple of times. But we found that you know, just pure WhatsApp is the way to go. You know, we found whether you are 20 years old, 40 years old, 60 years old, everybody knows how to WhatsApp because it's just how it works. We found the WhatsApp for Business to be quite cool because people know that once they've put their message in there, it gets kind of flagged up as a you know, hey, we got your message, we'll get back to you when we can. And we found that most people are actually quite comfortable not to need an immediate, you know, 1 second later response because it's going to come back to them at the right time, and your WhatsApp little blue or your little arrow will, you know, unread message will come when it comes, and if it doesn't, someone's going to chase you down. So that kind of patience factor I found has been really, really good. We have found that older customers are just, if not as, you know, absolutely the same in their use of those technologies from a digital perspective. So awesome.
You know, you touched upon this idea of the customer reaching out through, say, for example, WhatsApp. And, you know, I know we all have a lot of different channels as well that we're using. How one of the key questions that I always get asked is, how do you get each of the channels to talk to one another, making sure that none of the information of that query gets lost? I think that's a huge challenge for many businesses today.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're trying to connect WhatsApp to, say, for example, Twitter, or Twitter to Facebook, and Facebook to, you know, email, and making sure that all of that information is then collated so that the agent dealing with it is able to address that situation.
Yeah, let me take that one first because we've just gone through exactly that exercise, and there are some brilliant tools out there that are available. You know, I sometimes say it's a mistake or an advantage. We went on and took Salesforce as a foundational integrated mechanic. Salesforce is awesome if you take it out of the box and use it as it stands, but as soon as you start to customize it, it becomes a bit clunky, I find. But that said, it has worked pretty well to kind of connect the parts. We have had difficulty in getting all of these things to work, and we found that in some cases we were actually, you know, asking of Salesforce to deliver componentry that did not even exist in their global ecosystem. Just was like, come on, guys, how the hell can you run an integration of a customer exchange and interface without being able to connect, you know, WhatsApps and SMSs in the same basic thing, right? I mean, it's just straightforward. You want to have one central, complete and comprehensive mechanism for dealing with customers. In our world, it's a little bit more complicated as well because you've got it's not just the inbound, outbound type of mechanics, but you've also got, you know, insurance product related stuff. So when your premiums are paid and you know, benefits and claims and all that stuff, all has to sit in the same ecosystem of customer understanding, and have, when need be, all of that information available at fingertips. And you can't do that without cutting edge tech.
Actually, that brings me great into Sylvia. Sylvia, I mean, you know, within the banking industry, of course, you've got a lot of different products as well, and being able to get all of the information of, say, for example, an individual that's queried for an issue on one of the products, to then be able to then communicate with the other side. How are you dealing with that challenge? Is that something that you are, you know, able to provide this agile and holistic transformation you were talking about in terms of a global market?
Yeah, you know, I think this approach is business agnostic. So irrespective if you are leading channel transformation for the bank or for telcos, you have to provide certain maturity of integration. What I mean by this is, if you are introducing new channel, it can be WhatsApp, it can be even simple chat, it can be even onboarding process. All of those needs to be integrated and operate seamlessly in a one way. To be able to do this, you will have to have one data layer, like we are calling this as a analytical CRM. And then on top of it, you will have to introduce operational CRM to distribute content between the channels, to get information from the channels, and to be able to have one holistic ecosystem. Salesforce is can be one of the examples. There are, of course, different solutions, multiple solutions on the market. You can use Pega, you can use Salesforce, and you can, for example, use Adobe, and or combination of all of those. But the key things which I would like to highlight is one, proper integration between the channels to be able to start conversation in one channel and then be able to continue in another channel. And all of those information needs to be captured in one system. And then if you would like to push content, when I'm saying push, I'm thinking about even notifications or outbound chat as an option or other types of interaction with customers. You need to introduce a proper system that the person which is behind the system, which can be an agent, because you can start within the WhatsApp, then you can have a chatbot in between to automate, fast track this conversation, or to build engagement and distribute this information. But then at some stage, there will be agent included. So all of those small bits and pieces here and there should be integrated in one ecosystem. And there are solid platforms on the market which can be implemented.
All right, thank you for that. I guess, you know, well, one of the debates, long lives debates, you know, talking about having an agent afterwards is live chat versus chatbot. You know, which is better? Which is, you know, is it? Which do you feel is going to take over customer experience in the future? Will we always have a need for human agents?
Yeah, I still believe that there will be still a need at some point for interaction with the person, because I think that we are social animals. Like, so if there is any issue, like serious issue, when we are behaving, you know, we are using our emotions and we want to express our emotions. Something has happened, we immediately need help, right? So I want to say it to you. I don't want to use automated version of you. I want to have this feeling that you understand me, right? That you can help me, that I have your back, right? This is the different way of interacting, right? If there is something simple or there isn't any emotion included in this interaction, I believe that chatbots, as of now, at this stage, can easily handle. But if there's any emotion which you would like to share with others, then you will need agent support. So it's more like a human nature or human needs, less than operational efficiency, because chatbots can provide the same support as agent on the system side, but they will not, as of now, they are not able to provide that emotive element that you can feel that someone is hearing you, right, and understand your needs. It's like with hugs. Can you imagine that machine is hugging you? As of now, I can't. So I think that as of now, at this stage, element we need actually both human interaction and we can have engagement with machines to provide a simple, faster way of handling our needs or processes, basically within the.
All right. I see all you three gentlemen nodding your heads in an agreement. You know, is there anything else that you wanted to add to that, Kavan?
So yes, I think I concur. I don't know. I've not tried hugging a chatbot before, but I guess that would be very virtual. I think the agents will be here to stay, primarily because as our businesses evolve, the problems that our customers will also evolve. The chatbot is incredibly good at handling very simple questions. In the old days, like, you know, if you think back 20 years ago, the way that we would deal with these problems, we would ask the customer, can you go read our article on the website? But the chatbot allows a much easier way for the user to actually get this information. It also allows a lot more self-service, but it's limited. You don't want the customer to go through like 7 layers of problem solving, which you get the agents to do on the back end. But if you force the customer to do it, he's going to get frustrated as well. And there'll always be problems which will be too complex for the bot to plan out and too complex even for the developer to kind of bake in directly into the bot itself. So I think that the human is always there, is always needed for these difficult situations where you need human empathy, you need human ingenuity and problem solving to solve the customer, which the chatbot, it's difficult for the chatbot to do, I think, for the foreseeable future.
All right, perfect. Thank you. I do want to bring in a question from the audience. I've completely neglected that side. My apologies. You know, regarding utilizing digitalization, smart machines in order to win the hearts of customers, what would you say is your differentiator in order to keep your customers loyal, since this is where you ensure growth and retention as well, rather than going off to, let's say, the next competitors, since we are in a switching economy that have similar capabilities? Chris.
I think we're a long way from that being from the customer experience, chatbots and digitalization across an entire industry, in any industry. And I think whilst that is the case, I think he who provides the most efficient and working digital and the range of functionality in digital and in chatbot wins. That will be the differentiator. I think once it does become productized, homogenized, I should say, then we'll need to move to the next plane. But I think that's a long way away. It's a long way away. Hearing the other speakers speak, I don't know. My impression is that, and certainly the data that I see, customers don't like interacting with the chatbot. They don't. It's not their preference. They do it because we offer it as a channel and we offer it as the most convenient channel. But they don't like it, and so what we're aiming, and they don't like it because of the proliferation of really bad chatbots out there. I mean, let's face it, 90+% hopeless, can't even answer a basic question, and so customers who've tried and failed, they just think it's all rubbish now, right? So, and you see what we see in our data is the minute that a customer knows that they're dealing with a chatbot, a big percentage of them just give up and try a different channel. They don't even bother trying once they know it's a chatbot. And so what we aim for to try to ameliorate that is seamless integration between the two. So if the chatbot can't answer, suddenly you're talking to a human. You don't know the chatbot can't answer. And it's not perfect yet. That's certainly what we're aiming for. So you can move between the two channels. And once the agent has answered it, then they can hand it back to the chatbot to keep answering, and the chatbot will. So that's what we're aiming for. And I think that will be the differentiator in the current market, who can actually get that the most right.
All right, perfect. And Walter, I mean, you know, you started off as 100% digital business. Now, a lot of the insurance companies are also looking to adapt and amend their business models to become also that digital space. How are you able to ensure your differentiation, you know, given that you were first in the game?
Yeah, I think we've gone through a kind of the complete different journey. You know, we've gone from this idea that let's build everything digital and make everything super digital because that's the way it should be. And we've kind of come full circle. In the same way Chris and the guys are saying that, you know, chatbots generally suck. Digital experiences, you know, purely digital it works brilliantly in 90% of the cases when things go brilliantly. But in the 5 to 10% of cases where things don't go so well, it just doesn't. And you can actually significantly damage your reputation and your digital prowess by screwing up the 5 to 10%. But that said, it's not only that. The people are generally quite happy to sort out a couple of simpler things online, or straight through in digital. But in our world, we realize that, you know, yeah, sure, you can buy yourself $1 million of life insurance as a simple term insurance policy online, no problem, because it costs you $1,000 a year. You can buy your car insurance. Where it comes down to savings or long-term retirement, there's no amount of chatbot or online information or digital process that's going to get you there. It's just no, you know, So we've kind of come to complete full circle to say, well, while we've built this ecosystem, which is designed to engage in a digital way, and we've been quite successful at it. I mean, we now get 45% of our customers interact with us digitally on more, at least one time per week, which in our industry is, it's unheard of. We've mastered that. But now the challenge is actually to kind of take those relationships and actually drive them towards, well, from, we call it online to offline, where you can actually improve those relationships in a non-digital but fully advised human face-to-face way, and use the ecosystem to empower a human interaction rather than start with a human interaction and look to reduce the humanness of it over time. That's all that we're doing. And that's part of the reason for the very large transaction we've just done together in bringing the Singlife business together with the Aviva Singapore business for purely this idea of we now have a customer base of 1.5 million customers and deep advisory capabilities and deep product capabilities, and it all kind of comes together in this marvelous way.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Well, that's all we have time for today. Unfortunately, time's just really gone by. But thank you all so much for participating in today's panel, and I've really enjoyed hearing all of the different journeys that you guys are on. And yeah, once again, thank you so much.
Happy days.
Thanks very much, Felicia. Have a good day.
Have a good
Thanks,
day.
guys. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Sylvia, bye everyone. Now, next up, we do have our workshop session. So please do make your way into the next workshop session, which will be on a Zoom link. It will be quite interactive, so do enjoy your time. See you in the next 4 minutes.